We have defined our culture in such a way that allows us to live out our purpose, why we exist, why we're in the marketplace to begin with. And that really helps us kind of understand what people should join, what people should be celebrated in an organization, and then maybe what people we need to separate with.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thanks for coming back. And listen, we're having so much fun with Mary Beth. We're just going to keep having her. And Mary Beth, I think at this point, it's just us, right? Like maybe this is just our podcast.
Maybe it is. Hey, you know what? Any day I get to talk to you, Amy, is a good day in my book. So let's keep it rolling.
I love it. I think Jeff will probably, want to start, scooch his way back in when he gets back. But until then, we'll keep the seat warm.
Sounds good to me.
We know you got the running thing down, right? We know that's a talent that you have. But do you have any other hidden talents that we might not expect? Can you juggle or play an instrument? Maybe there's something totally unexpected that I don't even know about. Don't make it too weird. Keep it nice.
Oh, no, I'm not too weird. Well, maybe. I guess it's a relative term. Let me think. Okay, so you asked if I could juggle. The answer is yes, but I juggle a soccer ball, not actual ball. So
okay, still impressive. I can't do that.
Yeah, I can still, Mama's still got it over here. My kids just started playing soccer. So I can juggle it 50, 75 times still before I get bored. And then the instrument, I played 10 years of classical competitive piano. So I can definitely unironically start a story with this one time at piano camp. Maybe that's a little nerdy.
I did not know this. Now, I know you played soccer in college, but I did not know that you were a pianist.
Yes. Don't ask me to play much. But my hidden talent at this day and age is probably my Wordle skills, but not just Wordle, but I like to play Wordle, Quordle, which is 4 at the same time. Octurtle is 8, and I can't even pronounce it, but Sepquordle, which is 16 puzzles at the same time. So hidden talent.
So you're doing 16 puzzles at the same time.
Yes. So what you would do is you have the alphabet or whatever down there, and they have 16 puzzles, and each line fills up, and you have, I think it's 21 guesses to get 16 puzzles right.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that. I'm gonna be really honest. I'm like, no. You had me at Wordle. I was like, oh yeah, me too. And then you started going into those other things, and I'm like, nope, lost you. No, definitely not me. My hidden talent is that I can grow 5 tomatoes for $500.
Tell me more about that.
No, I just feel like if you're a gardener, right, you spend all this time and all this money and you're like, wow, if I had just gone to the farmer's market, I could have probably saved $2,000 this gardening season. So, but I'm just going to keep doing it. I got to love it. You got to love being out there hot for 4 tomatoes, right? I guess that's what we're going to do.
I thought you grew 5 tomatoes and sold them for $500. And I was like,
wow.
If
I could figure that formula out, right? Yeah, no, I would be doing a lot better. No. There is no hobby. Yeah. No, there is no hobby that I'm not mildly interested in that I won't spend $500 to have all the things to do at once.
Oh, yeah. And definitely, it tracks. People pay more for an experience than the actual product. So $500 for 5 tomatoes, hey, why not? It's a great experience.
Great experience. Well, I want to give a special thanks to our partner for this podcast. Builder365 is powered by Open Door for Builders. Easy sales, smooth moves. You can learn more about the work they do to support home builders at opendoor.com/Builder365. Well, Mary Beth, so this is interesting, and this is probably a trend that you've been watching as well. This trend towards build to rent. This is certainly not new. We've been seeing this in the last several years, but we're really watching it ramp up, especially in some areas. And I was reading an article, and it was talking about that according to Parcel Labs, in January of 2024, it'll approximately be 5.4% in some markets that the homes being built are being built to rent. And then in some markets, it's even 15% or more of the single-family homes are being built to rent. What do you think about this trend?
First off, fun fact, if you look at the top 20 cities of build to rent in 2023, so this is last year's stat, Greenville, South Carolina is number 12 on the list for build to rents. Yes. So Build to rent to me, it's a bit of a mixed bag, right? Because I'm a big believer in home ownership. I want anybody who wants to own a home to be able to figure out a way to own a home. That's one of the reasons I love doing what we do. That being said, having a rental option that isn't necessarily that high density apartment, giving people the security and feel of a home when they are in transitional stages of life, when they're, when you're a single parent going through a divorce and you can't get your money together to own a home, or maybe you're relocating and just trying to figure out where you want to be. I think that having that option is fabulous for consumers. My biggest concern with people in general renting is just the disparity between, is it like just the gap in wealth? Because homeowners have that net wealth of average, I don't know, it was $396,000 the last time I looked, versus a renter only has a average net wealth of about $10,000. So I'm all for giving people what they need to rent and have a great life. But I'm also wary of people who will rent too long and not make that jump into home ownership. But hey, man, I get it. Depending on where you are and what stage you are, homes are more expensive than ever. So it's a good option for some. What do you think?
I agree. I think it's a good option, and definitely a good business strategy for home builders to diversify their portfolio. The other side of this that gives me a little bit of hesitation, I guess I would say, is we already have critically low supply of housing. And we know that partially it's the critically low supply that's keeping pricing at a very high level. So if builders are taking part of their time and attention and their resources to be doing build for rent versus build for own, isn't that just going to continue to cripple the supply?
I don't know. When I think build to rent, I'm almost thinking it's the same concept, only just less density than as an apartment complex. And who do you get to build apartment complex? Well, apartment complex builders. So if you wanted to have that rental option for homes, I mean, it kind of makes sense to call in the experts, the home builders that know how to build on a tract to do it. And certainly we've seen great profitability in business models when they sell to those investors in that way. So if a builder has more money, can they give more supply? I don't know.
Well, it'll definitely be something to watch to see how it does affect the supply of homes on the market, to see if it has any effect on pricing. But then, as you say, just on the effect of livability, right? Just people do need housing, whether they own it or they rent it. So to give them another option in some markets really is a great thing to do.
Agreed.
So I'm so excited to share our guest with you on this podcast. And I know I say that every single week, but I mean it every single week. And this one, I don't mean any less. We have Jeanna Roach, who I am pleased to say is both a professional connection of mine, but also a personal friend. She is the CEO of Betenbough Companies, and which is the parent company of Betenbough Homes, which is a private regional builder in Texas, West Texas primarily. So you're not going to want to miss this one, because she talks about the recipe for success, and she talks about the journey to how she got to where she's going. And what I love about this one is her vulnerability. She talks about the stumbles that she has seen along the way and the setbacks that, quite frankly, actually were the things that propelled her into her current position. Take a listen. I think you're going to love it. Jeanna Roach, thank you so much for being on our podcast. I have been so excited for this interview. You have no idea.
Well, I have sure missed seeing your face, so I was really excited just to have the opportunity. What an honor.
We used to be able to see each other every quarter and go to fun dinners, and it's been way too long now.
Yeah, I can't believe it's been a decade since we started with the Jeff Shore team.
That is
what
so
a blessing
crazy.
10 years has been.
I know. A lot of change, right? A lot of development.
A lot.
That's
putting it lightly, I think.
Yes. And congratulations on your still relatively new promotion to CEO of Betenbough Companies.
Oh, thank you. Yes, I would say still feels very new.
Yeah. I wonder how long that'll last. I mean, that could last for a little bit, I think.
I had a friend tell me it took him about 3 years till he really felt like, okay, I think I'm now the CEO.
Yeah, a 3-year transition. That sounds about right.
To a big job. Yeah.
But I think so often people look at you and how successful you are and you've been, and they're like, oh, the road has probably been so smooth for her. And she just did this and this and this and everything worked out. But that's not really the case. I've always been so impressed with how vulnerable you have been about your story and your progression. I mean, you started as a communication specialist with Betenbough way back, and then you worked your way up. But again, it wasn't always easy. And there were definitely some things that happened that maybe took a step backwards. Can you just kind of tell us a little bit about your journey?
Yeah, I actually share about this a lot with our team, and they have me coming in actually in a couple weeks to talk to every leader about this, because I think we see that all the time with successful people and we just don't know their stories, but there's character building that's happening all along for anybody to get in a leadership role. And so I just keep thinking the fact that I had so many setbacks allowed me to have really good comebacks. And I'm kind of the comeback queen. And I mean, I know my faith really drives a lot of that. So I know that the Lord helped me in that. But yeah, I'll never forget. In, let's see, 2012, our company started really growing. And at that time, Rick Betenbough, our co-founder and CEO, had decided he needed to create an executive management team. And so he elevated 4 people out of our 11-person management team. That group had gotten too large, so it made sense. But I honestly assumed I would be one of the 4. I couldn't even believe that they wouldn't have thought about me to be one of the 4. So when I found out I wasn't, I think it's interesting. I saw that as a demotion to me. Not a promotion for them, but a demotion for me. And I didn't handle that really well. I didn't. It's not one of my finer moments, honestly, as a leader here. And I remember Rick Betenbough pulled me in his office one day, and it's what in our culture we would call a 911 call. Like, this is an emergency. There's not time for development here. You better turn it around starting tomorrow. And he just said, Gina, are you submitted to the leadership of that group? To which I responded 50-50. And he still let me stay. He let me give him that feedback and he let me talk through that with him. But he also at the end of that said, well, tomorrow it has to be 100% submitted or you just can't stay. And that's the truth of anywhere that you work. If you're not submitted and you don't trust the leadership, you should go elsewhere. It's not best for you to stay. And I wrestled with that. And I remember looking in the mirror, just going, what is my problem? And at the end of the day, it really was me. It was my pride. It was my ego, a lot of things that leaders deal with, And so I just needed to get out of my own way. And that changed a lot of things for me. I was like, I love the people I work with. I loved my job. I loved being in leadership. I love this company. I'm like, what is my issue? And really at the end of the day, it was just me. And so that allowed me to get the opportunity to become, lead sales and marketing for the company, and then bring the Jeff Shore team to Betenbough Homes, which was our only business at the time. But I was VP of sales and marketing for a while. And then guess what? There was another setback. And I was demoted. A layer, but it felt like more than that to me. But now I was on a team with people that I had hired, most of them. I had led most of them, and now we're team members. It's awkward to be team members and then be elevated above one, but it's really awkward when you're like this and now you're like this, because kind of nobody knows how to act. But I just knew I didn't do it well the first time when I thought that their promotion meant a demotion for me, and this was actually a real demotion. And I just committed it. I wasn't going to do that again. That I knew everybody in the organization was watching how I handled this. There's only 2 VPs in the company at the time, and I was one of them. And so, of course, everyone's going, how's this going to go? And I just decided to walk that out really humbly. And I'm not going to say every day was easy. There was a lot of things that I learned about myself and leaned into at the time. But wow, that changed my influence here in a way that set me up for the role that I have today. So next thing I know, I'm just the marketing director here, and I'm helping lead that. Next thing I know, I'm running our title company. Then Rick Betenbough has me running our bakery and cafe and our event center. And then, within 2 years, he's asking me to be the new CEO and take, his former spot.
I just love everything about that story. And, you've certainly shared it with me before, but yeah, you're right. I mean, I think we look at you, we're like, well, she did this and then she did this. And it was just this upward escalation the whole time. And, maybe you got lucky or maybe you worked hard, but it was just like this really linear path. But most of the time when you're highly successful, it's not a linear path. But what's interesting is, you said you're the comeback queen. But we know that a lot of times setbacks can't hold people back, right? They don't rebound. So, and I'm sure you've seen this on your teams as well, where you have all the faith in somebody, but they see a setback and they just don't rebound from it. So the people who do rebound, like, what do you see in them? Like, what is the difference between people who stay setback and people who move forward?
I think I've thought about that a lot because I'm like, why me? How did this happen? And I think it's because you're willing to choose something different. Number one, I am reflective on my own leadership and honest with myself about just who I am. I'm a very self-aware person. I know my weaknesses, I know my strengths, and I know that I'm not perfect and have blind spots. So I think if you're willing to just continue saying yes and learn from those moments, there's always something to learn in the valley.
Yeah.
And that is what would propel me to the next level every single time, is that in the valley, I was going, what am I learning right now? And asking that question. And it's what would propel me to new growth. I actually think development, the best kind of people development happens in the valley, not on the mountaintops, not in successes.
Right.
And so if you'll look at it that way and you won't let it just keep you stuck down in the valley,
right,
you can really make some really major changes in your life that that people around you are watching. Right. And it inspires them to do the same.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, I totally agree. And I look at Betenbough and y'all just do. You have great people and you develop great people. And, I had the privilege of working very closely with y'all for years. Not as closely now, of course, but I've always been impressed by how Betenbough operates. And I've had people across the country say, Betenbough, can you get us in? Can we go and visit with them? Y'all have always been so gracious. Your doors have always been open. But y'all just do things a little differently, right? Like all the builders say we're different. And I'm like, sure you are. But Betenbough really is. Betenbough really is different, isn't it?
Yeah, I think everything about us is different, honestly. We don't play by the rule books. We have really learned who we are. We have defined our culture in such a way that allows us to live out our purpose, why we exist, why we're in the marketplace to begin with. And that really helps us kind of understand what people should join, what people should be celebrated in an organization, and then maybe what people we need to separate with because we're just kind of quirky. But we really have a strong culture, and it is very different. We don't look at things the same. I think one example is we're really open-handed. When people want to come, we share everything.
Yes.
That's just who we are. We feel so blessed, like beyond measure. And so we don't have anything to hide. Transparency is kind of core to who we are. It's in our pricing. It's in our partnerships, really, with trade partners and other business owners. And we operate with transparency. We request that of any sort of partner. But we're just different in every single way. I feel like sometimes we're like the odd ducks.
Yeah, but the odd ducks that are successful. So we better watch the odd duck because something's working out there. So I'm going to hit on a few of those because I think that the audience would find some of those fascinating. So you even just said we're an open book and we will share. And y'all have actually very much done that with other startup home building companies in other states that you have no financial attachment to. You're like, here's our stuff, here's our plans, here's how we do it, right? Is that true? Am I getting it right?
Yeah, it is true. Our purpose statement, and I think that's important for any business, is that they understand why they exist. And we talk about this a lot, and it's because, purpose drives plans. It drives decision-making and activities. And we have a faith-based purpose. That's who we are. We want to reveal God and his kingdom through our work in the marketplace. And so that drives some of our kind of crazy-looking decisions to people outside of the organization. And one of them is if we're going to do that through our work in the marketplace, then Rick Betenbough was challenged in 2011 to give everything that we had away freely to two individuals in Joplin, Missouri, who wanted to rebuild their city that they loved and cared for after it was just ravished by the tornado. Something like 4,000 buildings were just toppled through that tornado. And so that just began this journey of really giving away very freely. And we talk about that story all the time because that was a challenging one for me, actually. I was the marketing manager at the time. I think I had worked here maybe 4 or 5 years. And I got a call from one of the individuals at that home building company. And he said, "Hey, Gina, Rick told me that you would be willing to give us the website." And I'm like, this is a 6-figure deal. We have all new graphic renderings, all new floor plans, new logo, new site. I mean, this is just a major investment financially and in our time. And I thought, well, what if we want to go? What if? There's so many what ifs in my mind. And so I'm like, hey, I'm going to call Rick real quick. I'll call him right back.
Yeah.
To which I did. And Rick said, "Gina, the Lord told me to give them everything freely and that this would be my ministry in Missouri." And that changed everything for me. And especially as we began to walk that out. I mean, that call was really odd for me. I had been in the business world and I thought, nobody does that. Why would you give away all this, important information? To me, it's like my mom is Italian and we have this spaghetti sauce recipe in our family. And I'm 44 years old and she just gave it to me in the past 2 years. It's like,
that's so great.
And that's how people are with their business processes and all their things, they want to hold it really tightly. And Rick just started teaching us how to I have to say it was more like peeling my hand, but how to give it away. And here's what is so cool. This year, they were ranked number 79 on the top 100 home builders in the nation. And they are growing. They just acquired another home builder. They are growing in ways. They are giving back to their community. They're loving people there better than we ever could have. And guess what? We have grown exponentially since then. I think at that time, we were maybe closing 400 homes. We'll close more than 2,000 homes this year. So it's like nothing was taken from us in that.
Right.
And Rick did. He went 1 week every month for 2 years straight to teach them everything he knew. And then he did it 2 more times with 2 other home builders. It's pretty cool.
That really is. It's a story like no other. I don't know of anybody else who's done anything like that. But let's just continue on with the things that make y'all a little different. Your pricing. And I remember when I came in as a consultant, I'm like, I'm sorry, we're doing what now? Because you had demand and you had these wait lists and I had to help your salespeople figure out how to talk about it. And I go, I don't know, here's a crazy thought. Let's just raise prices, right? Like that's how most people will temper volume is like they raise prices and you're like, no, we don't do that. And I'm like, I'm sorry, what? And you're like, nope, that's not what we do. And so talk a little bit about your pricing model and your commitment to affordable housing in West Texas.
Yeah, that is just our bread and butter. That is the customer we love to serve. I'm not sure it's always about just the product itself. It's about the people that's going to be the background to all their major memories, and that has been so sweet. There was a time that we built, larger than 3,000 square feet in our city. And we stopped doing that because we realized we actually weren't that great at that. First-time homebuyers really was kind of where our heart was and our niche, so we love that so much. And so we employ a cost-plus model. Rick Betenbough was a highly systematized and rigorous about cost type of leader. He always had a pulse on what was going on. He just passed December of 2023 from cancer, but I'm just telling you, he still knew how much we were paying for sheetrock. He still knew how much a frame was costing anytime he was with that Betenbough Homes team. And so that's just who we are. So if costs go up, then price goes up. But if cost goes down, then price goes down. And what is so fascinating about that, I was talking with someone recently, and so they're going, how are you guys? What's going on? When there's any type of recession or issues in the marketplace, we tend to win out because we've been focused on cost since 1992. Rick instilled that in us. And that kind of drives people crazy too. That is how we're a little bit different because we're going to ask our trade partners what their costs are. And, we just want to be transparent about all of it. And it's because we're not scraping off anything extra. The cost is that, the margin is this. And so that's how we come to the price. And we show the price on the website and you can get a home. We are very specific about this. You should be able to get a home for whatever we advertise on our website. And when we get that wrong, we are not happy. When that formula is not adding up correctly somehow, we'll change right quickly because we want people to be able to have a home. Each of us, I have a story about buying my first Betenbough home. I never thought I would do that. And I was in an awful situation in an apartment. And it's those stories that really drive us to hold tight to our costs.
And you'll even, if they haven't closed, if they're backlog and you take a price cut, they get the price cut, right?
They do. Yeah. It's really simple. We go, if that was us, what do we wish that a home builder would do?
Yeah.
And then we just go do that.
Yeah.
For us, it's loving your neighbor. And it's like, man, if that was my mom in that home, what would I hope that we would do for her?
Yeah.
And then we go do that. I mean, sometimes it's literally that simple.
Yeah. No, it's so true.
Of course we could do that. I mean, I know, look, the cost might not have changed. We might lose a little bit of margin on that. But if they could come back the next day and write a contract on a home and get that price, then we should honor it, even for those in contract.
It's funny. I was just with a builder a few weeks ago and I was doing some consulting work and they had a practice that I sort of disagreed with. And we kind of bantered back and forth about it a little bit. And I just said, listen, it's your company and you're going to make the decision. But here's what I might recommend. Get your operations team together again, revisit this, but do me a favor. Pull an empty chair up to the table and picture the buyer sitting in that chair and see if you would still make those same decisions. And I will tell you that the sales leader called me a week later and she goes, yes, you did it. We got it changed. And she was so excited.
If they could be in that room with us and they would hear how we went about it, not that we say that all the time. Like, we're not saying anything in there that we wouldn't share, and so how would they feel about that?
Yeah, I just love that. All right, well, let's just keep ticking off the ways you're different. When this NAR thing came out, everybody was freaking out. But again, this is an area where you're a little different than a lot of builders.
Yeah, quite a story right now. And Ron Betenbough would always say, we don't employ realtors. And I would say, we don't employ them full time. And the reason is we love realtors. We don't resell any of our homes. So those all go into the marketplace. We are the most affordable builder in every market that we are in. And so that means there's opportunity for them to sell those homes. It's just that they're a real cost. And if you're a cost plus builder, every dollar, I mean, I cannot tell you, it is excruciating. We fight over pennies here. And it's because we know how important that is to the customer. And we know, the National Association of Home Builders sends out this report annually that says for every $1,000 you increase in price, how many, people in the market now are not able to afford your homes. And we do not want that ever to be a barrier for someone to have a home. And so it's not that we don't love them. We love our realtor friends. And right now we do partner with some, when we have some homes that are sitting for a while, we have partnerships with them. And so but we're going to negotiate that. We are negotiators at heart. That's who we are. We negotiate with trade partners up front. And that's where that negotiation happens so that we never have to negotiate on the back end of a contract with the customer.
Right.
And so we do that in that area as well, because it's a partnership, and that cost, the buyer pays for it.
Right.
I laughed one time because somebody told me, well, valet parking is free at Ruth's Chris. And I'm like,
no.
That's cute.
You're right.
You're paying for that. Free
right,
shipping. Hey, you're paying for that. And the customer is paying for that. It's a real cost. And so as a cost plus builder, we're just trying to limit those major cost increases so that people can have a home and families can have a home.
Yeah. Again, I mean, I've learned so much from being with y'all over the years, and really have given me some different perspectives on how businesses can work. And I use you as an example all the time because other builders will tell me we can't do that. And I'm like, actually, you can. I have another builder who does it all the time. But I'll tell you too, you really understand your markets, right? You play well in the markets with where you build, and you've had substantial growth. So can you talk a little bit about when Betenbough looks to expand, how do you do that? Like, what markets do you know will work well for you, and what markets are you like, no thanks, we don't want to play in that market?
Yeah, I think our heart is to serve. Truly, that's really our heart. And so if somebody's already serving that market and they have a price point that we would bring, if there's nothing that we can bring to that market, then we don't want to disrupt that for people. we don't want to grow for the sake of just growth. We're not, because of our purpose, we're not trying to fatten our pocketbooks. That's not it. Like when we grow, it's because we have such an amazing culture. I have grown up in this culture, so I didn't create it myself. Nearly 18 years of being here. And man, it's had a profound impact on my life and has taught me so much. I've developed so much because of being at Betenbough Companies. And so we want other people to experience that, a place where they're seen and loved and appreciated. It's what everybody wants. You can read all the research. It's what people want. And so when we grow, we want it to be for that. Or if it's some way that it could serve our buyers, we have a title company. Maybe one day there's mortgage. We were trying to start a mortgage company, and then everything happened at the end of last year, and that's because we actually think we can lower costs for our Betenbough home buyers. Right now our title company doesn't have any settlement fees because sheer volume allows it. So that doesn't save, that saves the buyer, and so we're not trying to scrape off the top. So if we can go somewhere and serve, that market, that first time home buyer market, then we'll take a look at it. Right now, do we want to expand? We do. And I think that has more to do with the people on our team. They're just ready. And so for us, we don't ask where, we say who. And we think that before you expand, you should have a who before a where or a when. And we think that we have some who, so, which speaks to the development that's happening. And Rick Betenbough, 20 years ago, he saw the need to develop everyone around him. And that's what he did. And so now here we are. And I look around and we have some of the best leaders that I've ever met that I learn from all the time. And so, yeah, maybe it's coming. We operate with zero debt. And we refuse to take any sort of loan or financing for growth. And so that's a big piece of it too. Are we ready in all the areas that matter?
All right. Well, you have the who's. Can you release any of the wheres yet or not yet?
No, we're still really kind of asking the Lord about that, honestly. And is the cash there? It's a major cash investment. It doesn't turn quickly. When you're a home builder, we've learned so much now that we've gone into a few markets. We've learned so much. And honestly, we expanded this year in Lubbock, our home base. We started, we had one region that we were kind of building in here, and then we multiplied and we had 2 regions, and now we have 3. So technically, really, in the past year, we have expanded. It was just been right here in our backyard.
That's great. And you're definitely a home building company, but I would also characterize you as a ministry as well. The way you give back both locally and internationally is definitely a big part of Betenbough's mission. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, Ron Betenbough would say we're a ministry disguised as a home builder. And that really is who we are. And Ron Betenbough was the generous spirit that was here. And so Ron Betenbough is the dad, Rick Betenbough is the son. They came together to start Betenbough Homes in 1992. And so where Rick brought the systems and processes and really being conscientious about costs, Ron brought the love and the generous spirit to the organization. And so, man, there was one year that they gave away 87% of the net profits to ministries all around the world. We'll give millions this year. We have a team that's even dedicated to that, to our large scale giving. And man, it's just such a blessing. We're sending people on vision trips is what we call them. You might call them a mission trip. But we send people all over the globe to go see some of the financial investments that we've given. That's the stewardship part of generosity. And so community giving, that's in every single city. We've been blessed to be a blessing. So if it's in Amarillo, Texas, we're going to give back to Amarillo. If it's in Lubbock, we're doing the same thing. And we're in the Permian Basin in Texas too. And so we're investing right back in there. And we have teams of people, honestly, that are kind of mining for ways to give back, because it's fascinating. The Permian Basin has taught us so much, but it's an oil-rich area. And sometimes they don't have a lot of needs. There's so much money.
We're good.
But they don't. But then when oil drops and we're there,
then yes.
Again, we have that opportunity to be right there and support this community that has just blessed us beyond what we could have ever dreamed when we went there. I had never been to Midland and Odessa until I went in 2007 with Ron Betenbough and Carrie Ritchie.
Oh, good old Midland and Odessa. I got to tell you, I do not miss flying out of Odessa in the summer. There were way too many summer storms that stranded me in Odessa longer than I wanted to be there.
Yeah, that happens around here.
Yeah, really, it really does. I think I had to drive through the night one time to San Antonio to fly into Baltimore to be at something of my kids. So, but I would do it all again to spend the time that I spent with you and everyone at Betenbough. It was definitely one of the highlights of my career. I truly think of y'all as friends and as an inspiration. And I think that everybody in the home building company really could learn something from watching the way you do business. So you're just a shining example of what home building should be.
Oh, thanks, Amy. You know we love you so much. We talk about you all the time and just how thankful we are for you. And then we got to hand select you to come and be with our team. You know, what a gift.
That's wonderful. Well, all right, Gina, we always like to wrap up on something fun. And I know that, like me, you are an avid reader and you just like pour through your books. So what's on your nightstand right now?
Okay, well, it's kind of funny right now. I switch off. I learned a few years ago, and yes, I'm an avid reader. I had to stop myself last year because I realized I was cruising through, not even joking, one book a day. It was like 300 days into the year, and I had read 300 books. And I thought, what am I missing in my life by just having my face in that? And I think it was just a way to decompress a little bit.
Yeah.
And so,
speed reader, like, some sort of technique that helps you get through it that quickly?
I was reading fiction, and I can just fly through fiction.
Yeah.
Developmental stuff, not so much. So I did start last week a book. It's called Accidental Pharisee, and it is a faith-based book, of course, and it's super convicting.
Okay.
It's been a really good one, but at the same time, I always have a fiction book going. And so I just started The Tattooist of Auschwitz.
Yes, it's a good one. I've read it. Yeah.
Yeah. And at the same time, I got invited to be a part of the Betenbough Book Club. They all know that I love to read. And so, one of the young ladies invited me to the book club. And they're reading Daisy Jones and the Six, which I've already read. I read a couple years ago.
Such a good one, too. Great choice.
Good one.
Yeah.
I think this year I've read close to 200. And so I'm still clocking through them. It's all fiction, and it just helps me just get away for a minute and refresh.
Yeah. Yeah. I usually I'm reading one fiction and one professional book at a time, right, to try to balance it out. But
I think that's a healthy balance sometimes.
Yeah, right. Well, I try to be healthy balanced somewhere. I'm so unhealthy balanced in so many other places in my life that, I shoot for it every once in a while when I can find it. Yeah. Well, my friend, we do not get to spend enough time together. When are you coming East Coast?
Oh my gosh. Andrew, my husband, talks about it all the time.
All right.
When are we going to go there? When are we going to go there? We were talking about you today, actually, with friends that were here in the office. And we were like, our friend Amy, she has a farm. Yes. And we need to go see it.
Yes.
So
yes.
We need to get it on our list.
We're moving into a beautiful place right now. Like, so either you want to hit us in the fall or hit us in the spring, take a look at your calendar and just text me. We'll clear the calendar.
We're doing it.
All right.
I'm texting her.
I would love that so much. Thank you for being here. I know that the audience learned so much, so we really appreciate you.
Oh, thanks, friend.
Okay, Mary Beth, what'd you think? Wasn't Gina wonderful?
Yes, she is. And I mean, like, that was just like Chicken Soup for the Soul. Do you remember those books?
Oh, I do. Yes, there was a whole line of them. Chicken soup for teenagers and infants and dogs and cats. It was a lot. There was a lot of chicken soups. But yes, I do remember Chicken Soup for the Soul was the original, I think.
Chicken Soup for the Home Builder's Soul, Gina. No, she has amazing years. I think that so often people take for granted when they see somebody in a position of success, just how many setbacks it takes to get there, where they came from versus where they're going, and the hurdles along the way. So, and a lot of people in those positions of success aren't necessarily willing to share all of those vulnerable spots. And so very, very cool that she came on here to share that little bit of inspiration for anybody out there who needs to make their setback into their comeback. For sure. Loved it.
Yeah. I know. Yeah, I could talk with her forever. So I'm so excited. She's going to be sharing the same story with Women's Leadership Circle very soon. And just what an inspirational story all the way around. Yes, but definitely a story that women need to hear about the journey that many women go through in the home building industry. So yes, thrilled for that.
And I'm
you.
a big fan of not following rules that are not real rules. So the fact that they were willing to challenge some of the rules out there and see enormous success, and a type of success that was just fulfilling not only to them but to others, is just really wonderful. That's what the industry is all about. We all want to help each other and help as many people as possible. I think that's really cool when home builders keep that focus in the forefront. Couldn't have been better.
Yeah, and that's what we're seeing, right? Several of our guests, right? We're just seeing people just do it a little differently. You got Elaine and Money Garment at Garment Homes doing it a little differently. You got Jeanna Roach at Betenbough just doing it a little differently. It's so refreshing when someone in the industry just takes a different approach, takes a different strategy. We love to see it. And of course, we love it when it's successful. So that's wonderful. Well, thank you everyone for tuning in to another episode of Builder365. And before we sign out, we just want to give our heartfelt condolences to the entire Betenbough's company family. Their beloved Ron Betenbough passed away just a few weeks ago, and he was a wonderful man that supported everyone. Every time I saw him, Ron had a kind word for me, and I know he always had a kind word for everyone. He will be dearly missed and certainly irreplaceable. Our hearts are with you.